Hi. So in this video, we're going to go over why mastery of any technique um, makes it so that you're blind to higher or deeper aspects of that technique. And this leads us to the unavoidable pattern of like last shall be first sort of thing. Beginner's mind, the fool, the hero's journey sort of thing. So you can see why in something like as easy as like punching or swimming or flipping or doing like whatever, there's this comical, inescapable irony that the people that are best in that activity have the least understanding from it. And it's the simplest way to understand it is like if somebody understands something or if somebody is good at something, that activity of self, I, the contraction to here and not everywhere, as it gets good at something, that goodness is a blinding loudness. And so you can't see the cooler trick one level up simply because the light of your skill. It's like how you can't see the stars when the sun's out. And so any sort of skill development is like the sun is coming out on that activity, but then the surrounding container, the larger, deeper truth of that activity, which would be the night sky, is hidden. And this is unavoidable. So it's really kind of funny because it's inescapable. Some people who are masters at certain things, like especially masters of subtle things like consciousness, like philosophy, like whatever, like the really subtle teachers that are like, hey, beginner's mind, or anybody like, oh yeah, you have to empty the cup. If you know how to do something well, like if you genuinely know how to do it, it doesn't matter like what you think or how much acknowledgement you give towards beginner's mind. You're the blinding light, like you're causing the problem. And this is there's no level of mastery where the person can escape this. So their brilliance is a particular type of ignorance as well in all cases. And you would think like, oh, somebody figured out a way around that, but like no, nobody has figured out how to see the stars during the day. And remain in any sort of useful, practical, grounded position. Like maybe you can see the stars during the day, but it's the most elaborate $9 billion space rocket telescope thing that has nothing to do with like here. And so that pattern holds true for everything. And so this was really noticeable to me. I haven't been swimming at all. I haven't been doing any of my water training, none of the breath work or anything. I've just been doing trampoline stuff for a long time. And so I got in the pool the other day for the very first time and could intimately feel that like the greater area of the technique that I like to work on to align with those waves of like to be doing the larger and deeper Tai Chi of swimming. It's just identical to, I'm going to decide to do this. And when you decide to do this, it does the exact same thing as the technique of adhering to the areas further out in your sphere of influence. So, listening to the air, listening to your momentum. If you're wrestling, listening to the person, listening to where their feet are. You're listening to their overall strategy, right? Like listening to if you're surfing, you're listening to the wave, you're listening to the wind. And so that listening goes out and out, and there's more and more techniques of like, oh, how do I align with what's going on out there? But ultimately it's also what is going on out there is the mind state. It's the whole field is the simplicity of choice. And so like every technique or every field of study has a container, and if you want to become an expert at that thing, you do develop a daylight or a conscious awareness about that activity, be it some science, healthcare, a field of knowledge, philosophy. You can see this in medicine of they have this arena of knowledge, this arena of understanding. They've shed light on a certain aspect of the body, but that light, covers up the larger sort of cosmic patterns that led the person to be that way, that led to the creation of that person's disease state, like in terms of healthcare. And you could say, well, how do I know that they get there? And it's like, why do I know why do I know that today is the way that it is this particular day in winter, the sun's in a particular position in the sky? And it's because if you track what all the stars are doing, if you track the night sky, you start to learn, oh, summer, winter, spring, there's different sort of like larger cosmic cycles that determine, you kind of know, oh, the day is going to be like that today. It's going to be a winter day. The reason I know it's going to be a winter day isn't because of anything within the sphere of like solar knowledge, isn't within the sphere of conscious knowledge, like the thing that lights the day up. It's contained within the knowledge that's the larger cosmic patterns, not that the sun doesn't illuminate, but the sun takes part in. And that's where you get these patterns like the seasons, right? Or drought cycles, or larger cycles beyond that. You can kind of know, like, in 150 years in January, what's it going to be like? And you can kind of know, like, oh, I have a general idea of what it's going to be like on that day. That comes from a knowledge that lies outside the sphere of illumination of the sun. And so it gets to be like if you were studying something like punching, what made that punch right there in that particular fight, that particular set of people boxing, and it's like, what made that punch hit or not? Isn't really something either the two people are doing. It's their will, it's their drive, it's their like if the will is strong enough, the will's going in, and even if the punch is blocked, it's like the will just doesn't stop. If the will is there, if fate, the energy behind the team, like the whole event, right? And so that's, that pattern, you could say, of like, oh, what's the prophet? The prophet is the one who's willing to speak from the darkness. The astronomer, the person that studies the seasons. And then they're always going to have an expertise that is outside the field of knowledge of the thing that they have like predictive power over. I know what the day or the sun is going to be like in 5 years because I have studied summer, winter, spring, and fall. Which is not something that takes place in the jurisdiction of the sun, which would be like carpentry and gardening and philosophy and thinking, all these things that you could do during the day. Isn't the knowledge of the seasons, which is like a container for the day. And then that pattern is really only seen at night. You can only see at night that you're a point inside of a whole pattern of other points. That's something that you can only see at night when the sun's out. when the sun's down. So when the conscious mind sets, that's when you're able to see the larger context of things. And when people see that, they say, oh, I had dreams, I had visions, I saw the future. When people say those things, what they mean is like at night in my unconscious mind, I saw the context or the pattern within which all these things are fitting and taking place. And like if you really want to hit hard, you start throwing it like you would like a baseball. And you stop worrying about like other stuff, and that gets like nasty if you're actually throwing punches. I can't even, that's a whole nother. I don't have the wrist strength to really like throw it, but you can do the technique like kind of low, chill, and feel what it's like to like throw, the same way that you throw. How do I really throw it? Not too hard or you'll freaking break something. And you'll find, oh, what am I throwing? Not my body, because I'm like, my body's letting go, so I can throw it, right? So it's like, then you're just like splashing will on the other person. And it happens as naturally as if two waves ran into each other, right? You need to be like, oh, what's the correct technique? It's the water swirls here and waves up and down and does this and this is, and it's like if the will is there, if the simplicity is there, then it just moves, and it naturally moves to the people. Like natural technique is like the then it's just splashing, I guess, or throwing gobs of momentum at them. There's different paths by which the gobs of momentum can find. You can send a wave on the bottom of the surface or on the top of the surface. So there's this side, the bottom of the surface, it's kind of this inside, and then you have the top of the surface, which is outside. And some people go, oh, the ultimate technique is to be neither inside or outside, but just the surface. And so that's your focus and your intent, connecting with the person, and then to be inside is on one side of the wave, to be inside, and then on the outside is the other side. And on either side you can induce waves in the surface to hit the other person, impulses. And a super correct technique is to not be on the inside or the outside, but just the middle surface. Right? That pattern, the pattern that makes people successful in like meditation, the middle way, where it is it's like every activity has that middle point, and at that middle point, the success of the activity is as natural as a decision to think. And from there, it's like there's no more like being told what the right thing to do is, because the right thing to do is a simple, you're either balancing or you're not. And so ethics breaks down from like, oh, do this and this and this and this, to like, there it is. It doesn't make sense to describe a correct posture when you're looking for balance. But inside's tricky because it's like somebody being underwater, right? And you can hit like with stuff up high and throw like a crash, the momentum, or put deeper. Even if it's up high, it can be deeper. And that's just what part of the wave are they hitting with? The deepest bottom, or the top crash, or both? The whole thing, right? And really, it's just your attention connecting to your target, and then you can really do anything you want in the fluid or in the medium of that focus and that attention. So if you maintain the focus, that creates a medium within which you swim, your mind, and the currents and the waves in it are your will, unless they're there too, and then it's like competing minds. But if somebody's in that higher position, you can always just move the lower position around very easily.